This video is going to be a tutorial on Subsdy, which is a grant discovery platform, and it's going to show you how you use the agent in order to find a grant for your company, your research, or if you're looking for a scholarship, or if you have an NGO. I use it a lot to look for grants because it's very convenient. You can just copy paste a little bio or a little description and the amount of funding you look for, and you have the agent go through the entire database, which is obviously very cool because you have usually over 1,000 active grants and tenders on the funding and tenders portal, which means it's way too much to look through manually. So having a database you can talk to is very, very convenient. And also there are a lot of other features. So for example, there's a lot of rich data on every single grant and every single tender. You can follow keywords, you can follow specific grants, you can look for partners, you can create a public profile on every single grant page. So it's a good way to find partners. But this video is going to show you how you can use the agent feature to find new grants. There are a bunch of functions. I'm going to click through them just to show you what exactly is all there. So there's a search function. You can actually directly search the database. So for example, let me just put in EIC, which obviously there's a lot of EIC grants. So let's see what comes out of it. It's going to do some very broad search. So there's a lot of keywords that, for example, non-EIC grants might refer to the EIC and so on, but it's always going to have the most relevant ones at the top. So we can see here EIC step scale up, short proposal. This is the EIC Accelerator step 1, and then EIC defense call. This is related to the step scale up. Transition, there's a bunch of things. So you can see all of the open grants are actually here. And the further down it goes, it's going to be less and less relevant. But this is why it's actually a very good search, because you don't want just to search the title. You want to search all the data, all the web search, all the rich data for every single grant, so that you want to have a very broad search result, but you want to have the most relevant ones at the top. So all the EIC grants are actually all at the top. So that's number one. And if you click one, it's actually going to open, and then you can literally check out a lot of information. So you can see this is an open grant. You can find partners. You can create a profile here. You can see there's my profile, just advertising what exactly I'm offering for this particular grant. If you want to message me here, then you have to create your own profile on this grant first. You can do that for free. But if you click here, you can create your own profile. But you will notice that there's a bunch of stuff here that can actually help you. So this is freely available content, just rich content on the grant, which gives you a lot of summaries. In this case, obviously, it's an equity injection. It's not a grant. But for this type of funding, you can see there's a lot of information here, a lot of footnotes, a lot of rich data. You have a short summary at the beginning, so it's very well structured. And then you have all of the original files. So you can directly download them. So this straight from the funding and tenders portal. And if you want to see the original call page at the funding and tenders portal, then you can click it as well. It's a very slow website though. So yeah, this is extremely slow, but that's the EU for you. This is why it makes sense to create Subsdy. But you can see this is the original page. So there's a bunch of content here that you can directly use. And also you have another layer, which is suggestions on the side. So these are semantically similar grants or programs, and you see it found all the EIC ones. This actually also uses AI to find good comparisons and then to find open grants or open calls that are very similar in its scope. So this is also very useful. You can just click through different grants if you want. Let me go back. So this is now the search part. Then you can create projects. You can say, I'm a nonprofit, I'm a researcher, whatever you want to do. But this we're actually not going to do now because this is the first system I created. The second system is easier because it's an agent you can just talk to. So let me go to the next segment, which would be matches. This is if you have created a project, you can actually start matching and it's going to create 150 matches for your project. But what we're going to use is going to be the agent. So before we go to the agent, let me just showcase all of the other parts so you can see which grants you are following. I'm currently not following any grants, but if I wanted to, I can just click here on the follow button and then it's going to follow. So now I'm following the grant. That means I can get email notifications if it updates. So as soon as this is updating, I can get an email notification, and you can also copy all of the content. Now, if I refresh the page, it's actually seeing, okay, I'm following this grant and I can remove it here. So this is your little database, what you're following. Then I can check news. So every once in a while, I put out a post. So for example, the last post was 2 weeks ago, which gives you an overview of what has been added, what are the new grants that have been included. This is a bit of an editorial selection, so it's not going to show you everything. It's going to show you basically the interesting ones. You can see here in this case how many were there added. 48 were added, but in total it was about 200 to 300 over the time that this post covers, but I selected 48. So that's one thing you get here. Okay, so this update page here, it basically shows you what has been added to the database. So everything that has been added added to the database is going to show up here. And also, if you are on a grant page, if you go to the bottom and there have been changes, it's actually including a full log of what has been changed. If a deadline has changed, you get an email, but you also can see the entire version history. If there has been a change in the description where one sentence was removed, which happens sometimes, they remove eligibility criteria or something, it's actually going to show you the difference. In this case, they just included something, but if there was a difference, it's going to be red and green to show you what was cut out and what was added. So it's very granular. And then another very useful feature is the calendar. The calendar shows you all of the deadlines that are happening within the next days. So if there's a deadline today, it shows you a few weeks into the future. So you can see what's going to be for a deadline, let's say on September the 9th. And then you can see there's 2 deadlines then. You can open the page and then you can see what's happening there. It's September 9th. Okay, that is a grant. That's a very useful way to track the database. If you want, you can also follow keywords. So you can add keywords, for example, let's say fellowship. If you add fellowship as a keyword, every time a new grant is added that includes the word fellowship anywhere, it's going to send you an email notification. So you never miss a new fellowship, for example. Same for EIC grants. You can follow the keyword EIC and so on. And then you can also set your profile. So this is the profile that's automatically used. So you can, for example, change the name, change the country. What are you looking for? What are you offering? And then you can go to the partner search page. You can see where have I created my own partner search. You can see all the other grants or tenders that have partner profiles where some people have already created a profile. You can see, oh, EIC transition open. 2 partner profiles have been created. Great. Let me see who is looking for partners. Maybe I want to join. Or maybe it's a consultant offering the service, or maybe it's an applicant looking for support. So there's a bunch of things that are very useful just for the partner network. And this is the page where you can add a keyword, and any keyword is going to then give you a notification. For example, I'm following Pathfinder. Every time something, including Pathfinder, is published, is added as a grant, I get an email. Okay, so now let's go to the agent. So the agent is literally just a chatbot. It's relatively straightforward. It has basically a few modes. It can help you find new grants, but it can also discuss grants with you. So for example, I could give it a number or grant ID, and then it's going to be able to give me information. So what I'm going to do now is I selected a few very general profiles. So here I run a for-profit business accelerator based in Germany. I'm looking between 500K and 10 million. We support early stage companies and so on. So let me just copy this. This is now for my accelerator what I want to talk to this agent about. So that's my message. Let's see what the agent responds. So it's now trying to figure out if it has enough detail for searching a grant. If it does, that is exactly what it shows. Now, because there's a limit to how many matches I have per month, I can match 16 times, which is plenty. If it didn't get enough details, for example, if I hadn't given a country, if I haven't given what I'm doing, what I'm looking at grant for, it would have asked me, can you tell me more about this and that? In this case, I gave it enough, so let me start matching here. What it's now doing in the backend is basically searching the database. First, it's figuring out what exactly the scope is, what type of grants you're looking for. Then it's settling on a search approach, and then it's starting the matching process. It's using obviously LLMs in the background. They're going to look semantically what makes sense regarding your requests and how do we score them. It's going to score every single grant, and it's going to try to present you the most relevant ones. Great, and we already have the results. This took about 3 minutes to get all of these results. So we have about 25 results right here. So it found some interesting grants. It gives you a score, what is relevant, what is not relevant. You can see 86% and a little explanation on why this is interesting. 82%, 80%, 78%. So there's a bunch of grants that are actually quite interesting for this particular NGO. But let's do another query. So I'm just going to create a new session here. Now I'm going to pick the for-profit SME based in Spain. So this is about fertilizer and pesticides and so on. And I'm going to do the same thing. Actually, let me omit the Spain part. Let's see if it wants me to tell it where I'm from. Although I mentioned Europe, so Europe might actually be enough, but now I'm not actually saying which country I'm based in. So let's see how the AI handles this. Because I already say Europe, it might just treat it as Europe-wide, but maybe it's going to ask for a country as well. So let's see what happens. No, it's enough for it. So let me just start matching. In this particular case, case, obviously, it's not relevant because it doesn't matter if you're in Spain or in Europe with most grants. There are sometimes some that are very particular, but when it comes to EU-wide grants, it's usually EU member states. That's the whole point of EU grants. And it's doing the same thing. It's going to take the profile. So what we're looking for here, precision agriculture solutions combining field sensors, artificial intelligence to reduce water, fertilizer. This is obviously all made up. So this is using a lot of buzzwords like AI and fertilizer, but I'm sure we're going to find something related to, let's say, the production of fertilizer, I'm sure, and we're going to see something for agriculture. And this clearly is very much geared at agriculture. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some general innovation grants. We're going to see some specific things for agriculture. It's only focusing on grants. If you use the other matching feature, which I'm going to do a video on in the future, then you also see tenders, but most people are interested in grants, meaning this is non-dilutive funding. This is what it's going to focus on, and it's already done. This again took about 2 to 3 minutes. So let's see what we got for the pesticides. We got some very particular ones. Resilience of agriculture and water and nutrient scarce environments. This sounds pretty much perfect. So we got a relevance of 85. There's always certain things when it comes to, do you have to apply as a consortium, or is it going to be a single beneficiary? Is the ask correct? Is it roughly in the same range? Is it dilutive, non-dilutive? So there's a bunch of things. Again, another agriculture grant, and then AI supporting informed advice for farmers. So it found a bunch of things. With these EU grants, it's always a bit of a hit and miss because the rules can be very restrictive. This clearly is not exactly what is intended, but very often with EU grants, you have to change your project, meaning that you will never find a grant that says, I am looking for you exactly. It's usually there's something very similar and you have to adjust the project to match it. That's very often what you have to do. There's a lot on water. There's a lot on agriculture. Let's see what else we get. So we see a lot that are in the 70%, 69%. So we see there's quite a lot here. This already looks very good. And if you want, you can obviously now ask follow-up questions. I'm going to click the plus icon here. The plus icon is just going to add it to the chat. So let's say I'm very interested in this one. So these three, these are very interesting to me. Now I'm just adding a question for the LLM. I'm just saying, hey, agent, explain why these match to my profile and what might not match. Okay, and now we got the response. So it's going to obviously look up the actual grants. It's going to say, hey, why these are a match and what may not fit. It's going through all of these grants and it quotes things from the actual documents, and it's going to tell you why is it a direct fit, why is it not a fit, and you can go into these grants in depth. So that's very good. So you can talk to the agent about the results. It has everything in its context, and you don't even have to say the number. So you can, for example, just give some things. So you can see here with AKIS, and I can just mention this and it's going to figure out which one I'm talking about. Now I'm just asking, why is the AKIS grant a fit? It's going to try to figure out which one I am talking about, and once it knows what I'm talking about, it's going to try to find the information on that grant, and then it's just going to respond on that. Here we go. It found the correct one. This is the one it mentioned, and now it does the same explanation. So it's very convenient. You can talk to the agent, and the agent has all of the info. So the agent can pull everything on this grant. So for example, I can open this one in a new window here, and then everything that you see here, all of that content and more stuff that you do not see, it actually has in its context. It can pull that information, and then basically it can also see if there have been changes recently. Has the deadline changed? What is the current deadline? And then answer your questions if you have any. And also, if you just found a page, so for example, if you click this little icon here, it's actually copying the grant ID, which is like a little feature here. And then you can say this grant ID 3302, and you can also ask a question if you want to. And that's pretty much it. This is the easiest way to use Subsdy. I would recommend anyone to just do some agent searches, and you're for sure going to find interesting grant. If there's any grant in the EU, then I'm sure you're going to find it here.